right, thank you everyone for coming. So yeah, we're going to, this will be the last one of these conversations we have, which is sad. This has been a long, we started in December, it's almost May, almost 5 months of doing this conversation when we've talked about the kind of the arc that I wanted to do was kind of give the foundations, the physiology, the brain, the vagus nerve, the behaviors, trauma prevention, and we looked at somatic work. We covered a lot of stuff over our sessions together. And I was kind of been holding in my pocket the training of tapping, or EFT, that I have found to be very useful and very effective. And I thought, well, if we have time, I would like to just do a few sessions on that. And so I'm going to stop doing this now. I mean, this last session. And then starting in May, I've been talking with my friend John D, who trained me in tapping, and that I use it quite a bit in my own practice with patients to great results. And we wanted to share that with you guys. So starting next Thursday, we'll do 4 sessions. Actually, we're going to do community sessions on Tuesdays and the professional sessions, provider sessions on Thursday. Same time, everything like that. It'll just be John D. I'll be presenting with her to teach you guys that tool. We've been working with Standing Rock Community College for CEUs for it. So it could be a pretty awesome thing. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. So today, in our final session, as far as we go, probably by the end, Annie will post the how to register for it, and just register a bunch of people, as many people as you can, because it's really cool to have an opportunity to get that level of skill and information in a short amount of time. So it's really a cool thing. So register as many people, sign up, and come on. Okay, so today I want to finish trauma prevention first aid, and then hopefully we'll have time at the end to get us all caught up to the other group. We talked about the attachment, parental attachment, and what that looks like in the different types of relationships that parents have with kids, and what that looks like in kids. So you probably see that in your practices, in your school, maybe even at home. Okay, so I don't remember which number I stopped on, but there was 8 steps for trauma prevention. First aid, first one, and this is after a trauma event. You find someone's been, if you're the one that, if your team is the one that comes to the event, or they come see you, or you're there shortly after an event, a car accident, somebody tells you about an abuse type situation. One, check your own responses. Know that you're okay, because they're social referencing you, and they are connecting to whatever you're throwing down. So if you feel safe and you've done your own homework previously, they can borrow your safety. You have safety to spare, and so they can borrow some of that. So make sure you're okay. But this work, if we're providers, this work kind of requires of us to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, that we've kind of looked into some of our own traumas, and that we've done some of the work that we've talked about over the last 5 months. And so we're not bringing trauma to the traumatized table. There you go. So we want to make sure we're coming with safety so they can borrow that. So check your own responses. Are you overwhelmed? Are you concerned? Are you getting any somatic messages that you need to make sure you're okay before you engage in this? Step 2, assess the situation. Does the person show signs of shock? Say, let's you're my deal. Well, let's stay here till you start to feel better. Step 3, as the shock wears off, you can help guide the person through the somatic base. Why is that? Fight, flight, or freeze. fight, flight, or freeze. If they haven't fought, if they haven't flighted, left. If they haven't flighted, fight, flight, freeze. We want to make sure that we're using up that charge, and you being safe helps them release that charge so it's not held in them. Just like the zebra, fight, flight, freeze. He was holding that charge until he went to where we're safest, and then he got rid of it. We can offer our folks the same opportunity. So what offers them that opportunity is, don't go all, tell me everything you're thinking right now. What are you, okay, guide them to the sensation base. Where is this? Where do you feel it? Questions, short questions, long pauses. Short question, long pauses. Where is it? What does it feel like? Does it have a shape? Does it move? What happens next? My heart's pounding. What happens next to it? Just wait, be patient. Let them borrow your safety. They can release some of that. Is it tight, loose, tingly, tense, whatever it is? Kind of park on it with them. That gives the autonomic shining that light on there, and we want the parasympathetic to kick in because they're all sympathetic up. We want the parasympathetic to kick in to bring them back. So slow down the pace, number 4. So 1, check your responses. 2, assess the situation. 3, guide them toward the sensation base. 4, slow down and go at their pace. With you're carefully observing them, their muscle tone, their facial expression, the look in their eye. Is it vacant? Are they in shock? Are they looking away? Are they able to have sustained eye contact? Anything like that. Slowing down is difficult for adults. It's hard for us because, and really it's from a good place because we want them to feel better fast. But as a provider, have in the back of your mind, this is more than just this moment. I want to make sure that this isn't stored in them for this charge. We're really trying to discharge. This is all Levinian work, Peter Levine's work. Even allowing a minute or 2 between questions. Too many questions can disrupt the natural thing. So really just, where is it right now? And give them time to figure out where it is. Don't ask too many questions. If we go at the pace that they're offering, we're trying to facilitate a natural release of this excess charge, our buddy, the excess charge. We're trying to facilitate a natural release of that. So being very patient with them. Their body's going to go at the pace that it needs to go. Be alert to the cues that the cycle has finished. So if they're like this and being present, so some folks, I'll put my hand on their back and letting them borrow my safety. I'll breathe slow. I'm using prosody, the purposeful use of speech, using prosody. Look for a deep, spontaneous breath, or crying, or shaking, just like the zebra. Maybe a smile, or maybe they'll yawn, and then they make eye contact and they break up. That means they're back. They come back. They were all sympathetic up, and they come back. And just wait. And just say, let's just wait for a second, because there could be another cycle coming. Just want to kind of hang and see what, if it does, we do the same process. Create safety, prosody, slow their pace, breathe with them. Not too many words. And they may be tired afterward. They may, because the body like this, especially if they shake, they may be tired afterward. And validate that response. Number 5, validate the response, which is really go ahead and shake that scary stuff out. There's a lot of research on kids, adults who are able to cry after this event. Those tears have different salinity in tears of joy or sadness or happiness or fear. Crying is actually part of the body's healing process. So just say, go ahead and cry. Go ahead and shake that scary stuff out. That's actually a Levine quote. Go ahead and shake that scary stuff out. Remind them that after they shake and they're taking, remind them that it's over, that you're here now, that the event is over. Meaning they're not being abused right now. There's nothing occurring for that level of activation. They're not in the car accident right now. They're not in the dog attack now. The event is over. And we're trying to do in this moment is take care of the charge that was attached to the event. Let them have their own cycle. Number 6. And this helped me a lot when I first started doing this work was, I've said it before, the body wants to get rid of the trauma. We just have to be good stewards of the process. That's super helpful. The body wants to get rid of the trauma. We just need to be good stewards of the process. Know what we're doing is the stuff we're talking about today. Helping them feel safe, using prosody, letting the body do what it's supposed to do, and really giving them a safe space where they can do it. And that's the key, because remember the phrase, we don't heal until we are safe. Otherwise, we have to stay vigilant. We have to stay on edge. And that's not a conscious process. That's the vagus nerve and the survival centers of the brain saying, I got to stay jacked up because there could be danger around the corner. Unless you, me, in this moment, am the safe space for them to get rid of that charge. And as you practice this, as you become more familiar with your own sensation base, what does anger, fear, excitement feel to you, and what's the nuances that are the differences between anger and fear? Or fear and excitement, or excitement and joy? What's the nuance that you're labeling this information? Once you know more and more in depth about what your body does, you may actually heal. How your body, maybe you shake because you're getting to know the body's processes, and it's been holding something for a long time in you for the purposes of your survival. Not something you're doing consciously. It's not something I can't do it consciously, but it's the survival centers that are in me that once I start leaning into this stuff, what does it know about it that it wants to heal? And the more you do that for yourself, the more you can offer that to other people. So in this, our primary job is to get out of the way. Yeah. We create a safe space and then let their body do what their body does within this safety. So our primary job is not to interrupt the process of this. Don't shift the person's position. Don't distract them. Don't talk too much. I remember when when Gracie was shook after our tornado, I wanted to hold her tight, but knowing what we know is, I thought, well, if I hold her tight, maybe her body won't shake. So I'll be safe, but I'll let her body do what it needs to do. And it didn't take that long. The whole process with her took 10 minutes. So it's not, the body wants to get rid of it. Step 7. Did I say step 6? The body wants to heal, just be good stewards of the process. Trust their ability to heal. Trust the innate ability to heal. That's step 6. 7, encourage them to rest. Even if they won't want to, rest promotes fuller recovery. Our body throughout the night has little tremors throughout the night. It gives off heat, it gently vibrates. It goes through skin color changes throughout the night as the nervous system starts to relax and come to equilibrium. It takes care of itself when it's safe. So this deep excess energy discharges during sleep. Did you know this? During sleep. That's why sleep is so important for so many reasons. And then don't bring up the discussion about the event in the middle of, during this time by asking a bunch of questions about it. Just wait, kind of put a flag up that I'm going to bring this up in the future when things are, when you can have a cognitive talk about this, when things are safe and we can re-engage the prefrontal cortex and Broca's region and Wernicke's region. Remember, because if we start talking like that, other cycles may be occurring, but they're just kind of subtle in them. So let's just give their body time. And the final step is when they're rested and they're calm, attend to the emotional response. Kind of normalizing the response. See that a lot of us, you can even say us, a lot of us feel that way. When we're scared, our body shakes, we want to cry, things like that. It's very common. It's very normal, almost normalizing it, which is, it is normal. It's just that we've stunted it by trying to overthink traumas. When they're rested and they're calm, you can help them with the labeling of it. Because otherwise, I have my container and it's this big event and I can't fit it into my container. There's no way that this goes in here in the middle of it. But once it becomes more malleable, ooh, let me see if I can actually make this a really cool demonstration. More malleable, I can actually fit it in my container then. I'm not trying, this creates more tension, more stress. I can't figure it out. I don't know why. You hear people say this too. I don't know why it happens. It happens over again because they're trying to fit this into this and it's not ready yet. But once it's collapsed, you can fit it into here and it has different meaning. We can label it. That was fear. That was anxiety. It was stress. And they're all real natural for what happened. But if we try to do this in the middle of it, we're gonna make our jobs a lot harder. I don't want my job to be harder. I want my job to be easier. Okay. So understanding that, that's I wanted to make sure that we got to that point for trauma first aid. Let me pause here for a commercial break before we switch topics. Next week, because I wanted to say this before I forget it at the end. If you want to get ahead of the class, if you are that person, pick up a book called EFT for PTSD by Gary Craig. EFT for PTSD. You can get it on Amazon, and it's about this big. It's easy. It's just pictures of the form, but if the form of how you do the tapping and the verbiage of how you do the tapping. But if you get it, you'll be ahead because you'll know what the form is. And so you'll spend less time practicing the form. You already have it in your pocket. And then what we can do in our 4 weeks together is we can teach you how to point it at things and help collapse stress, anxiety, compulsions, addictions, things like that. We can help you point it at things to help collapse those things. So EFT for PTSD by Gary Craig. It's cheap on Amazon. Yeah, it's just if you order it today, you get it by next Thursday. Depending, well, I don't know. If you're in Rosebud, you might get it in July. Okay. So moving forward to the next topic that I wanted to finish with to make sure we got it in was attachment and the types of attachment that contribute to good things or tough things in kids. And so there's really profound, interesting research by Ainsworth. It was called The Strange Situation. You guys heard of that? You probably have. The Strange Situation. So let's preface the whole thing by saying children have a biological instinct to attach. They don't have a choice. And they attach to the primary caregiver, which in this research was the mother or the female caregiver. She was more present. So whether their parents or caregivers are loving and caring or distant or insensitive, reactive or abusive to children, the kids will develop a coping style in their attempt to at least get some of their needs met by this parent. And so Ainsworth and Maine did research on this, and they observed thousands of adults, mother-child interactions. And I say mother-child interactions because the mother is the main relationship in a child's life. In a child's eyes, it's the mom. That's the deal. And that's upsetting to me, because my 3 chocolate kids that are right outside that door right there, I breathe them. I love them completely. But Parks, he'll score a touchdown someday, and he's going to look at the camera and he's going to say, "Hi, Mom," and that'll be heartbreaking. But she's the deal. So they viewed these thousands of mother-child interactions, parent-child interactions, guardian-child interactions, and found that kind of pared down into 4 primary attachment styles of how they connected. And they used something called the strange situation, which I don't even know why they called it that, but I mean, I would have given it a different name, something cooler, like Bruce Springsteen. So they had them in the same room, and then they had the mother leave to see how the child would respond. First, they saw how the child was acting with the mother in the room. Then they had the mother leave to see how the child would react when the mother left, and then how the child reacted after the mother returned. Okay, that's the strange situation. So out of all the thousands that they observed, they found 65%, overwhelming number. So we're not pathologizing here. We're saying, yeah, overwhelming, we're healthy, good, secure attachment. So there was 4: secure, avoidant, ambivalent, and disorganized. So secure attachment, 65%. And then with the secure attachment, the mother was attuned well to the child, knew the states of the child, knew how the child's face changed, the mood changed. If they were laughing, they laughed with them, they played with them, they were very present. So that's a very secure attachment style. And the children of this attachment style, they demonstrate more of a sense of security, of autonomy, that they could explore more and know that if they come back, they were taken care of when they came back. So they're actually more willing to explore. They presented happier than other kids. That's 65%. What a wonderful number. The mother, she was sensitive in her responses, attuned to the responses of the child, matching states with the child. And here's the big word: she was consistent. The child knew what to expect from the mother. If I'm cold, I'm going to get warm. If I'm hungry, I'm going to get fed. If I'm crying, I'm going to get comforted. And that's how you roll. And that gives me the freedom to be autonomous, because I can come back here and I know what to expect. I have the tools to make this happen. Awesome relationship. So the child then believes and knows and has trust that her needs will be met, and that the mother has done her cooking. She's taken care of, if there were existing traumas, she took care of the traumas and had safety to spare, safety to give away. So the child grows up in that. Awesome results. If you track that in the future, 20 years down the road, awesome results. Less disease from that group, cardiovascular, cancers, diabetes, less incarcerations, more of reported life happiness, just any positive benchmark, much more in that group. Okay, so let's go to the other groups. Second group was the avoidant attachment. And the avoidant attachment, and this was about 20%, out of all the thousands, 20% was the avoidant attachment, which just really meant the mom really didn't connect with the child, didn't get any really joy from the child. didn't necessarily want to hold the child, and the child kind of picked that up and say, well, there's your space, here's my space. Let's just not be around each other. And that child was, they explored less. They're not very exploratory. They were emotionally, they were distant. They didn't connect as well. The mother, her behaviors or her responses to the child, she was distant or disengaged. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, take care of that. Well, be quiet. That kind of thing. It wasn't, well, what's bothering you? Where is this? And how do you feel right now? And there's no comforting. It was, but was consistent in that. Hear me say that? Consistent in that. So the child knew, this is what you're about. This is what you got in the tank. And so if this is what you got in the tank, here's my coping skills, because this universally like this. So I have to develop different tools to know how to get my needs met by you, because you don't have a hole on the tank. So maybe I have to scream more, or maybe I need to crawl on you more, because that's when you pay attention to me, but you're consistent in that. I know how to get my needs met. So this child may believe that his or her needs probably won't be met because you're just not that present for me. And that was 20%. The ambivalent. So remember ambivalence. So we have a secure, avoidant, and ambivalent. So ambivalent was 10 to 15% of this group. So remember, ambivalence isn't lack of interest. Ambivalence is ambivalence. I'm putting my energy toward a lot of different things, and you're just one of a lot of different things. So I'm in the room with you, but I'm on Instagram. Oh, I'm gonna share that. Oh, I like that. Facebook. Ooh, like him. That's cool. Like her. That's cool. Oh, that's a cool event. Yes. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes, that's great. Okay. So you get a piece of the pie, but that's not a very fulfilling piece of the pie, because the ambivalence. And so the child that gets the pieces of the pie, but not a filling piece of the pie, they may feel more anxious, more insecure. They may feel angry. You may act more angry, and anxious and angry just go together so intimately, because they have the same somatic base. My heart's beating fast. I'm tingly. I feel out of my head. They have a lot of same somatic base. So you hear anxious and angry together quite a bit. That's the child's behavior. The mother, she's inconsistent. Sometimes they're sensitive, sometimes neglectful. And the child can't rely on the needs being met. Now, these are, besides the securely, the anxious and the ambivalent, they're complex, but the child can develop tools to get needs met. They know how to, they've created a little world around this, because as we've talked about before, they come out of the womb, they need foundational needs met. And one of them is just connection, is just comfort. And that's beyond even the food, being held, being warm, being safe. It's, can I find comfort someplace? And so it scans the environment and kind of marks, who are you in my environment? Who are you environment? Okay, you seem to be the one that's around most. How do I get food from you? What do I need to do to have this happen? And if you're distant or disconnected, the organized attachment strategies, secure, avoidant, anxious, work, because the caregiver is they find something that they're capable of. Infants who receive consistent care, even if it's that, they can develop, but that doesn't mean there's no problems for the avoidant and for the anxious or ambivalent. There doesn't mean that there isn't problems, but I can create ways to get needs met because I get it. It's still not ideal. The secure attachment is the ideal, which is, I want to end with making sure that we take care of ourselves. We make sure we've done our cooking, because that reverberates generationally, but I'll talk more about that later. So if these attachment patterns persist into adulthood, actually they generally do. It's difficult to find relationships, and that's not saying it doesn't, but they just don't turn on a dime. It takes work. And if you're in your traumas, maybe you're struggling to do the work or even want to do the work. But anxious toddlers often grow into anxious adults. Avoidant toddlers are likely to become adults who have trouble with empathy, with understanding their emotions and the emotions of others. In school, the avoidant one are likely to bully the anxious kid, because avoidant is, I just don't connect with you, period. Anxious or ambivalent is almost like disorganized, but disorganized has more depth to it, but it's a little inconsistent. So they have a sense of insecurity. There's no foundation for that. But remember, as I dive into disorganized, which is the toughest one, development isn't linear. I mean, if you see this, this is why we do what we do, because we believe there's possibility. We believe there's potential. We believe that things can change, things can get better. So understanding that develop isn't linear, there's many life experiences that can intervene to change. People connect. They meet you as a provider, a teacher, a friend. There's a lot of things that can help these things. So these are broad statements. And the four is not saying this is going to be your future. They're saying this is what the tendencies have been. So last one is disorganized, which is the toughest one. It's the toughest type of attachment. So this group, the disorganized, they seem unable to figure out how to engage with their caregiver. And really the primary issue was that the caregivers were a source of distress or even terror to the children. Maybe they were abusive. Maybe they were severely neglectful. Maybe they were yelling. Maybe there was alcoholism. So the children in this situation don't have anyone to turn to. And they are faced with the insolvable dilemma. This person is simultaneously necessary for survival. I need this person to keep me alive, and yet they terrify me. And think about that as an adult. That's awful. So this disorganized attachment was about 10 to 15% of the study group. So the children's general state of being was they were depressed, angry, completely passive, non-responsive, almost dissociated, which makes sense. Remember, dissociation is the brain saying, yes, this is too much. I'm just going to unplug. The mother, the adult, the responsible person, they were extreme, they were erratic, they were frightened or they were frightening, they were passive or they were intrusive. There was a balance. They saw it every time they swung past it, but they were never here. So the child had to say, maybe I can catch them with this tool here or here or here, but it was a moving target. And so they couldn't develop the skills to cope in this environment. So they were severely confused with no strategy. The child couldn't get a strategy like with the other ones, couldn't get a strategy to get this person on board. I just saw a boy today on telepsych who's 14 years old, great kid in an awful environment. Yeah. He's a great kid in an awful environment, and his survival tools just weren't serving him very well anymore. I'll say that again because it doesn't pathologize the child. He's a great kid in a toxic environment, and from birth, uh, physical abuse, later on sexual abuse, alcoholism in the home, father's in prison. Great kid in a toxic environment. And so the tools that he developed were, I don't have anything in me, and I haven't been guided in any way to address this sense of overwhelm. So drink, hit, smoke, use. And so he's 14 now. In the past year and a half, he's been in juvie 8 times in the past year and a half. Mother is an alcoholic, told him she wished she never had him, doesn't want him. He's staying with grandma now, and has everything that we've talked about. He has eczema, he has asthma, he dissociates regularly. Everything we talk about in the body trying to survive, because he grew up disorganized. He's trying to get safety from a moving target. It just wasn't available to him. So they can't approach, and they can't, which is secure and ambivalent. If you're ambivalent, I can still try to approach you. And they couldn't shift their attention away because I still need food, which is the avoidance strategy. And as they observe these kids, the child would look at the parent and look away, just to see, you need to be there because you're my parent, but don't hit me. Don't hurt me. And the children in the study, they found, dissociate, which is exactly what happened. This guy, even like 2 or 3 times during our session, he would dissociate because it's just better to not be in here. If no needs are being met and there's total lack of safety, it's just better not to be in here. So this child, they don't know who is safe. And listen to this, they don't know who to belong to. These kids that they studied, and that boy I saw today, and kids everywhere, too many kids don't know who they belong to. So that child looks away, or at the same time needing it, and at the same time fearing it. Jeez, where do I belong? And then one of the things that I do with my 3 chocolate kids is, if they do something that they're behaving in a way inconsistent with how we're raising them, then I'll say, that's not what we do. And because you are us, you are part of our little clan, we are your tribe. That's not what we do, son. And try to straighten that up. That's not how we talk to people. And so I'm not saying you are wrong, I'm saying you fit in with this. This is your group. This is where you belong. And as this group, as a congregate, this is how we roll. You're part of this. That's really important for the child's brain to know that they belong somewhere. So these kids may be intensely affectionate with strangers, or may trust nobody. And you guys, I know you guys have probably had this experience. When I go to schools, kids will say things like, will you adopt me? I mean, I'm a total stranger. Will you adopt me? Will you be my dad? And they'll hang on my arms. And I don't want to sound fluffy, but remember, this electrical charge extends about 3 feet past our body, and it has weight. It has a valence. The research shows that it extends about 3 feet past our body, and carrying these kids and absorbing that. I've gone to parking lots and just reclined my seat in the parking lot of the school and just whew. Or if the kids see me, or like it's not a good situation for parking lot wise, I'll drive to like a Walmart or a gas station and just lay in recline my seat for a while because these kids have, in their lives, they have fright without solution. They have fright without solution. And so they live like this and looking for any buoy to hang on to. My goodness, you guys, and I know you guys have had that same experience. So parents who are preoccupied with their own traumas, abuses, or past history, remember the lateral prefrontal cortex brings that into right now, even though it's not occurring now. It brings this into the right now. So I'm wrestling it right now, and you want my attention right now? I don't even want you. I'm too busy wrestling this to do anything with you. And so the child is brought up with this trauma. So they haven't done their cooking yet. I'm not saying they won't or they can't. They just haven't yet. That's why we do what we do. It's not that they won't really have it. They can't. They just haven't yet. So traumatized parents need help attuning, coaching, healing. And it's all possible. It's all doable. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having this conversation. But what the traumatized parent does too often is can you guys hear that? Hold on. They said, hey, Daryl's on a call with a small microphone. Let's go shed some trees in his backyard. So I'll talk louder. I don't even know if you can hear that. But ADHD, come on. I just want to stare out the window. So the parents, they have trouble attuning, so they don't get the relevant cues of how a child or an infant, the small changes in face. So what they may do is they try to push harder because they're not recognizing the cues, the small things the baby does. So the baby starts to cry, and then to make them stop crying, I'll try harder. And pretty soon it just escalates, and this baby's screaming, and the mother says, they don't even like me. They don't even want to be around me. And it's played out over and over and over again. And that's a recipe for, honestly, that's a recipe for abuse later on, because there's such a huge fracture in the relationship that I don't even have a sense of feeling for you. So kids raised with mothers with PTSD had a significantly higher rate of developing serious psychological problems. Children raised with mother with PTSD had a higher rate of developing serious psychological problems. They had a vulnerable physiology. And that was that boy that I saw today. Oh my goodness. And I liked that boy. He was a cool kid. But you put this tiny brain, tiny vagus nerve, tiny spirit in this environment, and the child can't raise themselves. They can't be left to their own devices. So this talk today is in cheering, it is in support of us as parents, us as providers, doing our own healing and making sure we are okay. I get all sorts of people coming in and saying, will you take care of my kid? Will you change my kid? And I'll tell them, no, you need to be here. That's what the woman of this, now the grandmother of the 14-year-old, she came in with him and she said, do I have to come in with him every time? And I said, yep. He needs to feel safe, and he needs you to help him feel safe. Because we're making a generation of kids that are the identified patient. And because this generation hasn't attuned or healed, and because of this generation. So what we want to do is we want to interrupt the flow. So we can work on the kids, but I need to have the parents, I need the adults to start doing the work. Get them on the EFT, get them on the tapping trainings. And that is so key, so critical. Listen to this, even in burn centers, even with pain management, and something as intense as a burn in burn centers. Children connected to, primarily their mothers, required less morphine than those who were disconnected, that were not well attuned with an adult. Even their pain receptors, the stress caused more active pain receptors. in children that weren't connected to their parent in burn centers. Because if you have no internal sense of security, it's difficult to distinguish between safety and, and danger. So there's more dangerous behaviors. If you're chronically numb, and I mean that in every aspect of the word that we've talked about, because I had two of the conversations today, crying all out. Wait a minute, 3 today about I don't know how to feel and I don't know how my body feels. They're chronically numb. And so the ones that I talked to today, the boy was arrested 8 times in the past year. He's just doing something to feel something. The young woman I'm talking about had piercings all over her body, tattoos on her face all over her body. She said, I did all this because I just wanted to feel something. I wanted to know what it felt like to feel. So if you're chronically numb, you can also put yourself in potentially dangerous situations. They crank up the notch, crank it up. That's one of the common things that is said about people coming back from wars. They became an adrenaline junkie because constantly they're like this, and their body's constantly hyper vigilant. And sitting here watching TV doesn't give a sense that I'm alive. So there's a much more dangerous behaviors. If you grow up with disorganized parents, your body doesn't know how to monitor that, doesn't know how to gauge it. And so there's much more incarcerations and everything the opposite of what I said at the very beginning. So secure has all these great outcomes. Disorganized has the opposite. Even physiological problems. There's more disease, more cancers, diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune diseases, lupus, arthritis. That distracts. And then more incarcerations, less life satisfaction. It's toxic for the child. And there's a belief by these kids, even the ones that I talked to today, that I must be a terrible person. I was told. The 2 of the 3 kids I talked to today were told by the parent that I never wanted you. And you're stupid and what a waste. So I must be a terrible person. It's not, the child's brain doesn't know that mom and dad are struggling. That's beyond the capacity of the child. So the child, I must be a terrible person. Everything, all the stuff that I feel, I'm labeling as a terrible person, and it tracks me everywhere I go all the time. So then they start in their relationships. They start expecting people to treat them that way. And they behave accordingly, and they get into relationships accordingly. Emotional withdrawal of the parent has the most profound and long-lasting impact on the children. Emotional distance, role reversal, and you've probably seen this on the res or in the community, where the mother is raising a child as a peer, not as a child, and having arguments back and forth like they're peers. That's way too common now. This is all linked to aggressive behavior against self and others in this young adult. Now, I've shared with you guys about the lobsters, but this ties right into that. The lobster's brain, after a defeat, dissolves and comes back as a lesser lobster brain. It gets a lower rung in lobster society. And so pretty soon it gets skinnier and weaker because it doesn't get as much food because it's looked like that in lobster society. It doesn't have a good place to live because it looked like that in lobster society. It becomes a lesser lobster. And in humans, if we're raised this way, we start to think about ourselves differently. And you can look at research on bullying and alcoholism and toxic relationships. We accept the love we think we deserve. That's from that movie, Something About Being a Wallflower. We accept the love we think we deserve. So our goal today, my goal today was kind of to, first of all, let's knock out the trauma first aid stuff. The second of all, I wanted us in praise of self-care. Maybe that's what I want to say. Because you take care of yourself, you can attune better. Your child comes up differently. They're a lobster of strength, and they raise kids that way. And we can generationally change our communities, but it doesn't happen by accident. It happens with parents, the group I talked to on Tuesday, becoming more well and aware and heal. And it comes from providers who have done the work that they can help parents walk through this process. So take care of yourself, for crying out loud, people. It's okay. The doctor says it's okay to take care of yourself. So on Thursday, remember, so the book is called EFT for PTSD by Gary Craig. If you can pick that up, you'll be ahead of the class. You will be the head of the class. You'll be ahead of the class. So you'll know all the motions. So you'll have to spend less time learning the motions on here. Does anybody have any questions or comments or thoughts?